Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. Today's topic: I think my Sil's 23 best friend 23F is trying to get with my 25F husband 28 and she's encouraging it. Am I delusional? My Sil 23F is my husband's half-sister. She was the product of their mother's infidelity. His father divorced their mother when he was 12 after he found out through a paternity test she wasn't his. My Phil refused to have anything to do with my Sil, but continued to have a relationship with my husband. Because of this, my Sil is very clingy to my husband. My husband is also very protective of his sister and generally doesn't tolerate anything negative being said about her, which is why I'm posting this here before mentioning anything to him. My husband and I bought a house last year which has its own indoor swimming pool. My Sil was super excited when she saw it and asked if she could use it sometimes with her friend. We said it was fine as long as she gave us a notice before she turned up. Her and her friend, Chloe, have used it many times before, but almost never when my husband is home. He is a lawyer and works long hours. With lockdown, my husband has started to work from home. My Sil asked me if she and Chloe could come over and use the pool. I told her I was uncomfortable with them coming over as I'm pregnant and don't want to accidentally expose the baby to anything risky. My Sil then asked if she and Chloe quarantined for 2 weeks would they be able to come over. My husband said it was fine. 2 weeks later they turn up to my house. My husband was in his office, so they go straight to the pool after making small talk. My husband ends up coming out after an hour and we are hanging out in the kitchen. My Sil walks in to get a drink and she starts talking to my husband. Before she goes back to the pool, she says Chloe's going to be so happy to see you. It was weird because my husband and Chloe aren't close. Chloe comes into the kitchen 2 minutes later and spends the rest of her time talking to my husband until he excuses himself to get back to work. She's super jiggly and smiley when she talks to him. He would say something sarcastic and she would laugh like it was the funniest joke she's ever heard. It honestly felt like she was flirting with him. Before she went back to the pool, she gave me this weird smirk while look. Before they leave, they ask my husband if he's working from home every day of the week. He confirms he is. The next 2 weeks, they come over to the house to "swim" every single day. Except, Chloe never gets in the water. Instead she hangs around the house in her bikini. She was previously wearing a one-piece, if it makes a difference, every single day. Whenever my husband comes out to hang around me, she quickly interrupts him and keeps him talking until he has to go back to work. I made lunch for us all, and when I excused myself to call my husband down, my Sil quickly stopped me and said Chloe could call him for me. They shared a look and Chloe looked really happy when she went to get him. Chloe has also started to get touchier with my husband. She's put her hands on his chest and arms, stands or sits really close to him. To my husband's credit, he does usually create space between them whenever she does something like this. The reason I believe my Sil is in on this is because she's made a few pregnancy related jabs at me recently. She told me a story about how one of her friend's boyfriends was cheating on her and then said something along the lines of, "Did you know a lot of men start cheating when their wives are pregnant?" She's also made comments about how I look chubby now and it looks weird next to my husband because he's "well built." If she spots my husband out of the office, she quickly goes to inform Chloe. I know pregnancy hormones can mess with a person's brain, so I'm wondering if I'm just looking for something that isn't there. My Sil sent me a text yesterday asking if they could come over to swim next week, and I really want to say no, but I know she'll whine to my husband if I do. I ideally want to have a conversation with him before then, but I'm not sure if I should mention the flirting. Am I being delusional? TLDR, Souls and her friend are constantly asking to come over to use our pool, but her friend never swims. Instead, she waits around to start talking with my husband. She seems very flirtatious whenever she talks to him, but I'm not sure if it's just pregnancy hormones getting to me. Nah girl. Nip it in the bud right now. You know what you see and hear. You see the looks between the two. You see her touching him and flirting with him. They only decided to come over every day after they found out that your husband will be there every day. When you bring up this whole thing, don't blame the Sil. Completely blame Chloe. Don't say anything bad about Sil. Let your husband know that you appreciate him, creating some distance between him and Chloe, but that you'd like more distance or less talking/touching between them. Or ask him what he wants to do about it. Also let your husband know that the pregnancy is making you insecure and that they keep making jabs at how big you're getting. You married him for a reason. I'm sure he will understand. If you talk about how Chloe is the issue, it shouldn't bring up any issues with Sil. Also, I would stop telling them what you're going to do regarding your husband. Stop saying I'll go get husband, because that's when Sil steps in and says Chloe will get him. Or I'll just bring this to husband, because Chloe will bring it to him instead. If you're going to get him for lunch, then just go get him. If you're going to bring something for him, then just do it. Don't give them a chance to take over and get alone time with him. Good luck. I'm sure your husband will understand and set some boundaries with her. Get rid of them. They are definitely flirting, and they are coming around way too much and monopolizing any free time your husband has. You should talk to your husband. Hopefully, he's also feeling uncomfortable with the interactions. I'm no longer comfortable with Chloe being here every day after witnessing how she behaves around you. Don't bother mentioning his sister, since he is very protective of her. Just mention Chloe and her lack of boundaries. And see how he responds. That will give you a good idea of where he is at and how you should proceed from there. The easy solution would be just saying to him that Chloe is shamelessly flirting with him in your own house, and, even with all the trust in the world, it's an unnecessary stress to the pregnancy. Just avoid insinuating that his sister has a part in it, and throw the easy A away. Okay, seriously, why are you putting up with being disrespected in your own home? This is your home. First, try to talk to your husband and tell him how you feel, and yes, mention the flirting, because he's your husband and he should be putting you first. Let him know that you expect your feelings to come first and you expect him to protect you. See what he says, but either way there can only be one outcome here, that you're putting your foot down and you're not putting up with his sister and this girl coming over anymore, especially since you're pregnant and there's a pandemic going on. Like, what does it matter that they quarantined for 2 weeks? They're still going in and out of your house and they could easily pick up COVID traveling about. And then tell your Sil and this Chloe girl that they are not welcome over anymore. Frankly, I'm not opposed to you letting them know why women like that need to be put in their place. This might just create more drama than it's worth though. Also, how disrespectful of this girl flirting with a married man who has a pregnant wife. Your Sil with her fat shaming comments is also a piece of work. Like, where is your husband in all of this? The fact she isn't even getting in the pool would be my excuse. I would tell your husband you would like your house back. You wouldn't mind them being over if they were actually swimming, but if they are just lounging around they can do that at their own home. I wouldn't have been cool with them coming over that much in general. Twice a week at most. Every day would be way too much. I like my time alone in my own house. I'm not looking to be a host every day. And that would be if they were gracious guest. So to have her act that way, I'd just tell them no. Come on. Pregnancy hormones might cause you to have more extreme emotional reactions to things, but they don't make you delusional. Trust yourself here. Calling you chubby. Joking about men cheating on their pregnant wives. That shit needs to be shut down immediately by both of you. Wow, that's a really inappropriate thing to say. What is wrong with you? Nope. They are just catastrophic people that are defiantly trying to set her friend up with your husband. You should talk to him and explain, if he can't already tell, that Chloe is flirting outrageously with him, and that it makes you, his pregnant wife, uncomfortable. Especially during COVID. Even if he won't stand up to his sister, he needs to acknowledge that you are the priority as his wife, and it's inappropriate for her friend to stay in the house. Tell her husband that Chloe's flirty actions are making you uncomfortable. You don't need to mention Ursula or anything, just how she has been here more than usual and seems to be very touchy, and it makes you uncomfortable. I think her husband has also felt that, and maybe once it comes out her mouth he might be there for you. Try to limit their visits after that. Also, I would also point to Ursula, how she is going to be the aunt, and basically talk about how she is part of the family. Maybe it will get into her head that she is potentially ruining her niece/nephew's life. I'm not trying to overly upset you or stir the pot by any means, but here's something to consider. Your Sil is interested in your husband a little more than a sister should be for a brother. When I was young, I had a boyfriend whose younger sister was wildly clingy with him. Like, to the point she would never let us go anywhere in the house alone. She would always try to insinuate I was cheating on him. She would do everything in her power to make me look bad and have us break up. After a lot of discussion between the three of us, my boyfriend is actually the one who drew the conclusion that his sister was actually jealous of our relationship because she was romantically interested in him. They were only 2 years apart in age. She often wanted him to judge her outfits when changing. She asked him to adjust her bra straps, etc. She was immediately jealous of every girl he had ever brought around and did anything she could to end all of his relationships. Maybe consider the possibility, knowing your Sil is already clingy with your husband, and knowing that she reacted negatively to your marriage and pregnancy, that she wants her brother for herself. I know it's weird and this isn't really something I recommend telling your husband, because based on the info, he is protective of her and will be disgusted by that insinuation. But it happens a lot more than you'd think. Little girls idolize their older brothers, and oftentimes there will be a line that gets blurred between the affections shared as siblings. She could be using Chloe as a weapon to attack your marriage. Maybe Chloe isn't actually romantically interested in your husband, but is instead acting as the catalyst for your marriage's demise, so Sil can have husband to herself. Just a theory. Sorry ladies, pool is closed for the season. You want a pool by your own house? Talk to your husband and ask him if he feels uncomfortable or if he enjoys the attention, and he may have not noticed. Men are usually oblivious, especially if it's busy, but once you say that, he may think about and either be flattered or uncomfortable. If he resists the stopping of them coming, tell him Chloe makes you uncomfortable, and honestly I wouldn't allow any unknown female that close to my partner, and if they got all flirty I'd openly say, do you mind, that's my husband you're hitting on and I'm right, here get out of my home. I have no shame. I'm quite assertive and possessive over what's mine. My partner knows and likes this about me before anyone panics that he's abused or it's a controlling situation. He's not. He's the same with me. He loves it. He tells me so. If he wants to leave, he can leave with no arguments from me. Until then I'll defend my territory, and so should you, especially in your own home. Blame your hormones and go all mama bear and rip that hussy to shreds. You're missing the entire point. It doesn't matter if you're right, wrong, delusional, sane, on point, off point. It matters how you feel. These two are making you feel shitty. Nobody should ever have to feel that way in a relationship, and all you have to do is communicate to your husband that you don't like having them around. It doesn't matter if there's real flirting going or not. And accusing/getting into it is a waste of your time. In my opinion, and I've been with the same woman for 30 years, your relationship with your other is the single most important relationship you have, unless you want to argue your relationship with yourself. My point is, you have rights in this relationship, you have earned your place as a co-partner in this relationship, and one of those rights is the right not to feel like you're jealous, insecure, uneasy, etc. F all that negativity. This is your relationship, and on top of that your house. Not to mention you are pregnant, although I would say this to anyone feeling that way. Take a stand. You owe it to yourself to feel comfortable, healthy, happy and at ease in your own house and relationship. You're not delusional. Chloe is manhunting and your still is her biggest cheerleader. Be straight up blunt with your husband. That girl comes here constantly to swim and doesn't even get in the water. I'm not happy with the way she behaves around you. I'm telling Chloe not to bring her here anymore, and I need you to back me up. If your husband tries to brush you off, play the emotional pregnancy card. If you have to, you're worried about your health, you need your privacy, etc. Who cares? Protect your marriage at all costs. Talk to your husband, say that these little things have started bothering you, and you do love your Sil, but don't feel comfortable with Chloe at your house anymore. Don't mention your concerns that Sil is in on it, because that would make him defensive. Just bring out Chloe's flirting and your uncomfort in your own home because of her. They are playing Min James. Win them at their own game, and you are pregnant. You can use it as leverage to ask for comfort in your home. His sister has abandonment issues, and yet she's actively trying to hook up her married brother and her friend. Sounds like she's got multiple issues. Is there a reason she doesn't like you? If she feels like you've taken her brother away, what does she think her friend will do? Very simply, talk to your husband. Explain everything, including all the dicks his sister makes to you. Tell him you didn't want to come between them, and maybe it's the pregnancy hormones, but you can't allow Chloe in your house any longer. I'd tell him to pay attention to what and how his sister says things if she continues to come without her. She may use the situation to talk bad about you and hype up your friend even more. Your husband needs to see what she's doing. On the plus side, it sounds like your husband is a good man. Having been a child of infidelity and divorce has hopefully turned him off of ever doing that to his own family. Ban Chloe, deal with the sister as little as possible, and enjoy the rest of your pregnancy. I went through something very similar. My boyfriend at the time, 3 years, had stayed close with his ex-wife because of the kids. After she had cheated on him years before I even met him, they were able to rebuild their friendship over the years. Anyways, ex-wife had a key to the house for emergencies. I can't say I was thrilled about that, as she was notorious for dropping in unannounced on my only day off. I spoke with my boyfriend. He didn't do much to stop it. A few months later, she started showing up and hanging out all day at our place. Her excuse was she enjoyed our back deck as she lived in a small apartment and had no outdoor space. Then she started overruling my decisions with our puppy at the time, and then she started bringing her friends around and showing them the house. I confronted my boyfriend about it, and he kept saying Mesh's just bored. She will find someone else to pay attention to. Eventually, long story short, the more I brought it up, the more pissed off boyfriend got, and the more she came around. Finally, he broke up with me. Thank God. I took the dog and am very happily married to the most faithful man in the world. I later found out they had made a plan. She would move in while I was still living there, so that it'd make the decision to leave, as he was a bull SD head that couldn't tell me the truth. And apparently they are married again. Good riddance. Moral of the story: if you are uncomfortable, there's a really good chance something isn't on the up and up, and it'd be putting a stop to it in a quick hurry. Cause even if your husband doesn't engage, these two women sound like they would say things just to kill your confidence or cause you to distrust your husband, or even worse, walk away from your marriage. Do not trust a word they say to you.